Welcome to another Brand Matters podcast in the Founders Series episodes. And here we are discussing all the founders' journeys and the roads less traveled that are creating value and meaning for the world around them. In this episode, I have a very interesting founder and who actually was a technologist most of his life and did quite a few tech startups with an AI first mindset, but then went on to find this unique outfit called 99 Minds. So let's welcome Sanil first here. Sanil, welcome here on the
Thank
Brand
you,
Matters
Padmini.
podcast.
Well, happy to be here and I'm always happy to talk to you.
Awesome. And Sanil and I have known each other for over 15 years, something like that, I think. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah. And in having worked with Sanil, there was always like something very zen about his approach. And whenever I went with a problem to him, it was almost like, oh my God, he's ready for retirement. So whenever he said something or did something, it had a lot of thoughtfulness, a lot of gravity. So I always admired that in him. And I was very surprised when he started 99 Minds. And so that's the angle we are going to explore today with Sanil on the detour where he did something different and still kept the essence of the technologist alive in him. So welcome again, Sanil. Do you want to give a brief intro about yourself?
So I started 99 Minds back in 2019. 99 Minds is primarily a leadership coaching company, and we also do leadership facilitation. And primarily the idea is and it's really focused for tech leaders today. So 99 Minds really helps tech leaders take care of things that are not what we so-called hard skills. So it really help them be very efficient in their work, and also really think about their careers in a larger sense and what's meaningful to them, and also what makes them happy. Yeah. So 99 Minds is really geared towards that.
Anyway, thanks, Sanil, for that quick intro. I wanted to start with some origins and sparks, right? So how did you come up with the idea of 99 Minds? And how did you think that that's going to be your path forward from where you were, right?
Yeah, this is back in 2018, and I was managing the mobility practice for the services company, pretty much leading a big team and very much steeped in technology at that time. And I think the genesis of 99 Minds in some way is probably a question asked one afternoon. That is, what do I want my next decade to look like? And one option was I could rock climb the technology ladder, and then and then get to where I want to be. But also there's something on the people side which was very attractive to me, and I realized that I really want to be doing something where I really help people around me be more efficient, be more happy, and try to kind of look at what would that look like. So I would say that is really the genesis that really put me on a path to think forward differently about my career rather than just being a technologist. So that was the starting point. And at that point, I don't think I had the conviction or I had a very clear idea of what it's going to be, right? So it wasn't like I exactly knew that this problem would really matter a lot. But I think there was, I like to quote Oliver Wendell Holmes, who said so beautifully in his poem, The Voiceless, that many people die with a song in their hearts that they never sing. So I wanted to make sure that this is a song I try singing and see what that looks like. And that is also, I think, something that led me forward to see, okay, what would that look like to help people around me really be more efficient? And that journey, I think, started from there. And then I became a coach. I got certified, and I realized that coaching is a way to really kind of institutionalize this idea in a practical sense. And I think that's where it all started from.
Yeah. Did you feel like the world at that point was lacking that centeredness or that calm or that zen or some sort of an approach that you needed for people to converge and become better leaders? Where I want to get is, what is the trigger point? What is the driving force behind that? There has to be some inflection point, right?
Yeah. So when I was an engineering leader, a lot of my work was involved around really, running these projects, but also a good part of it is also making people really grow in their careers, right? So that was a really big component. And having a ringside view to what is happening to really brilliant professionals, leaders, and how sometimes, there's burnout. They're very good tactically in what they need to do, but sometimes there's a loss of meaning and purpose. So at that point of time, at least from the purview that I had, I could really see that there was a lack of some of this connectedness, as you call it, is a lack of real connecting them back to their roots and their meaning, which I think people either need to be trained on or to be coached on. So that was very clear at that point of time. And I think so I would say yes. And that was really an important component of my trigger. At the same time, I would also say, I was writers like Eckhart Tolle, who's written The Power of Now. And I remember sharing that book with you at some time, I think many years back. And also writings of Jiddu Krishnamurti, I was very inspired by, which really talks about life, not in terms of careers and not in terms of success generally, but also going back to what does it mean to live and what does it mean to be happy? And I think I was really inspired by that too. And this was a path for me to operationalize in some form.
Yeah. But the human experience and the human connectedness, everything is becoming very important now. And I think you are one of those guys who actually dreamed this up even before, AI was in its kind of full form as it is right now. So I always kind of go back and think like, what made people think about that human connectedness the way they did, and they started new businesses because of that, right? So like when you do the jump to doing something like 99 Minds, you're not sure of your safety net and of all the framework of economics that needs to come together. How are you so sure that this is it? This is what I want to do, and this is what is going to kind of be my bread and butter?
It was nagging enough for me that I realized I have to take care of it. Like,
Right.
and when I coach individuals today, I always ask them, like, is this pain, just something that you can deal with? You don't really care too much about. Is it nagging you enough that forces you to action? I think this was one of those things that I would get up and I would think about it a lot every day. So I realized there was something in there that, at least for me. Secondly, I think when I looked at the market and when I looked at where the industry is and what's happening, it was very clear that what is not going to change is the need for people to be happy, to be efficient, and really to have well-being. Right, no matter what happens. And it turned out to be true. Years now. And keeping that in mind, I realized, okay, there is something in here. And coaching at that point, and even today, it's still at a very nascent stage. It's still it's a growing industry, but it's still very nascent. But I did some research and I realized that there is enough need for it at a professional level that companies will really benefit from it, individuals will benefit from it, and there is a way to make it into a thriving business in some form. And those are enough pointers and for me to really think about it directionally as a correct thing for me to do.
Yeah. And now that, I would say there's a lot of replacement of human workforce because AI is taking over some of the statical functions, right? And when you interact with these companies and workforce, do you see any of those? What are the elements you see? Let me ask you, put it that way. What are the elements of concern or I would say fear? What do you see there?
Yeah. Oh boy, I was waiting when is this question going to come. It's so very true. And I think it's just not because it's cliche to talk about AI, right? I think these are real concerns for real individuals and they manifest in different ways. So if I'm speaking to one of my clients, for example, is a pretty senior engineering leader in a big tech company. They have a good view of how AI is changing their team structures, the org structures. So the questions manifest in the form of what does it mean to be a director in a tech company now with AI, when you have fewer people that you need to manage, what does that look like? What does their career progression look like? So that's one kind of a concern. How do they prepare for that? The second concern are from individuals who are not really impacted by AI in many sense, but also they know that this is a big change. How do they really thrive and how do they improve their lives beyond what they can do today, but really incorporating AI into their lives? And sometimes the idea is, should I treat it like a threat or should I treat it like a friend? And how do I manage it in an interesting way? So there's some conversations around that. Then there is a real concern from individuals who've seen direct impact on their lives in a detrimental way, where they've seen that the responsibilities probably have shrunk in some form because a lot of it is not done by AI. So they are in a space where they're redefining what does work mean for them. And it's not clear to anybody right now. No one knows how this is all going to shape up. So I think they're going through this change cycle where there's a bit of denial, but there's also a bit of trepidation around what's going to happen. And I see those kind of conversations coming up because of AI.
This is such deep work because there is so much that I see like there is a pattern with generations, right? So this generation, or Gen Z, as I call it, they are very much in sync with the technology and they understand the mechanics and they know how to work with it. But when we are dealing with people, we are also kind of dealing with the previous generation because we are from that generation somewhat, right? And so there's always this like, I would say there is like a chasm between that generation and this generation and understanding AI, so they approach from a point of strength, whereas I think the previous generation is approaching it from a point of somewhat kind of a point of weakness because they're kind of worried about it that, oh, it will take my work away. It will take this away. So I'm seeing that as a chasm. Are you seeing that in your work when you're working with people? I'm not sure if you're coaching the younger folks, but
yeah, I do. So I don't see it exactly in the same sense because a lot of my clients are in tech. So even those who are tech leaders, they've been in the industry for a while. They're pretty tech savvy.
Right.
So I think what I've seen is not so much about this is something that's going to be difficult for them to learn and then cope with. It's more around they're at a point in the career where they had a certain projection of what that's going to look like for the next 10 years. I think this has probably come from the left field and they're trying to figure out what does that mean. So that's a big question for them, right? And once they get clarity on that, I'm sure they're going to be ready to adapt to that. Okay. So that's what's going to happen. On the Gen Z, and I've clients also who are not a whole lot, but a few who are just maybe a couple of years out of college, and I also coach them. And what I find from them is very interesting is they're pretty tech savvy, obviously, because that's how they've been through school. But generative AI, especially in certain fields, is impacting them more than if you're an experienced professional, right? So they're ready to imbibe it and they're ready to use it, and they are really AI native. Yeah. But it almost seems like they're in a straitjacket where the opportunities are just passing them by. So they feel that okay, this is going to be a space where my skills are not going to be useful anymore. So how do I grow into a more senior leader, right? So I think that's what the Gen Z is really worried about at this stage.
Okay, yeah. And yeah, I think you're right in the sense of you're putting it in the context of leadership coaching, right? Because that's your kind of mainstay. Yes. And I would say that most of your clients would be, people who are at a level where they've kind of crossed all the chasms of leadership and coming to a point where they're trying to adjust to AI rather than or react to AI, as you said.
Yep. Absolutely.
So how does success look like for you in this field? Because it's hard to quantify. I mean, for us in marketing, for example, when we run a campaign and you get the leads, that's success. But it's hard to quantify, right? How do you measure your success?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I cannot talk about success for 99 Minds separate from what success means for me as an individual, right? So because it is so tightly into. So I'll start with what success means for me as an individual, and then talk about how it manifests in 99 Minds. So for me as an individual, obviously success is doing meaningful work. When I have a coaching session, there's an aha moment for a client. That's success for me. So really doing a lot of deep, meaningful work is what is success for me in many sense, and also connecting to some of the roots of who we are as human beings and what really can make us happy, and really going back to that. And the more I can connect to that, I think the more successful I feel. So that's the starting point. As 99 Minds obviously is a business, so there are some factors, that KPIs that have to be met for it to be a sustainable business. So for a business like 99 Minds, success really is, of course, one is what is my book of business in terms of what are the clients I'm coaching. Partnership is an important component because a lot of my coaching is also through partner organizations I've worked with. So my churn with partnership is an important component. So I have partners I've worked with for the past 5 to 6 years now, and their success is directly connected to my success in 99 Minds. So partnership, book of business, and also transformation in my clients. So if I see clients, so sometimes coaching is very tactical in nature, where you're really helping them with surface level problem. But a lot of my success I derive from is really when there are transformational changes in my clients, when they've gone beneath what's happening. And the more I see that, I think that's success for 99 Minds too.
Yeah. What does that transformation look like? I'm intrigued a little bit. And how do you assess, like, okay, this is on the right track, kind of a thing?
So transformation can take many different hues for different individuals, but there are some commonalities that happens. One, I think the most important thing is when I'm working with a client, often the presenting concern that they come with could be a leadership challenge. For example, communicating with the C-suite, or maybe a cross-functional challenges that they're coming with. That's a surface level problem. And when a leader comes in with that situation and you try to assess what's happening, the more deeper we go into what could be either a belief they have or either an assumption that they have that's really blocking them. That is transformation, because now they've really unlocked something which they can carry with them even beyond our coaching engagement. Right? You could band-aid some of the current presenting problem, but real transformation is when they really unlock an area which they never thought about. Right? For example, a client who realizes that how they're showing up in certain cross-functional situations is quite different than how they show up in certain other ones, and that was rooted in some kind of a bias that they held for a very long time. Realizing that is big, is profound, because now really it helps them through many different interactions that they have, and they have actually grown as a leader. So that's an example of what transformation could look like.
As I look at everyone who I'm working with in leadership capacities, I feel like some amount of self-awareness is very essential to kind of hold the fort, in terms of how you're managing these cross-functional relationships. It's very important. And then someone externally who can shine the light, and you can trust that person that, hey, this is happening. This is how you can kind of work with it and emerge out of it. I think that external force is really important.
Sometimes you just need a mirror to say, oh, you don't see this is happening. And that's sometimes coach is just a mirror.
Correct. I want you to understand your point of view, because you're a technologist at heart, and there's a lot of infusion of it in our world right now. So I wanted to get started with talking about, maybe the evolution, what you've seen, and where do you stand right now with AI?
Yeah, it's obviously a great question any time. So to me, AI is really an enabling technology in one sense, right? So it's like Wi-Fi, it's like electricity. Very soon it's going to be everywhere. We are at the stage when probably like electricity was just invented, and then people experiencing the new experiences. I think we are at that stage right now since 2023. So AI is really, I think about it as more, in some sense, it's also an amplification of human intelligence, right? So you have, it's not really a replacement in many sense. So what that really means from a practical perspective is what I think about AI as a tool, as an aid, but really empowering me and making me 5x capable than what I would be without AI. And really leveraging that, right? So that's a very simple thing like ChatGPT or whatever that is. So that's my basic premise on what AI is, and that's that could change in a year from now with AGI, etc. But we'll see where that goes.
Yeah. The reason why I ask this question is also because your son is now in college and he's studying computer science and he's going through the whole course momentum. And I was chatting with my son yesterday and I was like, maybe rethink about what you want to do in terms of your major. Is it going to be computer science, something else, right? What will you do with AI if it just takes over, kind of a thing? So in that context, for Gen Zers, right? Like, how do you see the future for them, especially the ones who are in courses like computer sciences and stuff, where AI is like the primary?
Yeah. So right now, there is no clear answer as to what would be the correct direction. But I think the probability of certain things happening are high, so we could probably use that as a cue for what needs to be done, right? So, for example, AI is definitely going to take over, many more. It's going to collapse many more walls than we do right now, right? So that's going to happen, like research, or if you take, creative, and it's all happening in many sense. So what that means is for anyone who's going to college now, anyone who's learning, what they really need to learn is first of all, be really fluent with AI.
Yeah.
I would say AI fluency, not just AI literacy.
Yeah.
Right? AI literacy is when you're aware of certain things, but AI fluency is very important, which is your life and the way you work has to be AI native, and that is an important skill to build. That's very important. Even if that means that what you were learning in college is something you're never going to implement because AI can do it, that's fine, but you have to really know how to do it using AI. That's number one.
Yeah.
Number two is always ask the question, what unique value can I add as a person? Because for the foreseeable future, AI is going to really speed up creation of content, creation of code, and creation of ideas, etc. But human in the loop is still going to be needed to vet it, to fine tune it, to give their own, your gut instinct to it and intuition added to it. All that is going to be needed for the foreseeable future.
Right.
So building those skills like creativity, empathy, and anything that's really needed to add that extra layer is going to be very important. And those are skills that individuals will need to build.
Yeah.
And as far as hard skills go, like for a particular example of my son being, doing computer science, the key skills of building something technically to problem solving, right, and understanding what is happening in a particular situation, how do you optimize it, those skills are not going away.
Yeah.
You will still, you can just use AI for all of that, but really knowing what to use in what sense and be really fluent with those skills is also going to be important. So I would say these three important factors to look at.
Such priceless nuggets. Oh my God, makes sense. So now with all the new founders who are coming in, right, they have all this technology at their disposal, obviously. What would your advice be to them when they're kind of sieving through so much tools, so much infrastructure, and creating, a product, bringing a product to market?
Yeah. So AI it kind of can be deceptive sometimes. So I call it lazy AI, which is like using AI lazily in a sense that give it a prompt and it gives you something back and going with the trust that okay, everything is perfect and you can use it. That's lazy AI. So one of the things I would say is, don't use AI in a lazy way. Use AI for what it's good at, but also make sure that you're doing the quality checks and all of that. And that the combination is very powerful. Lack of that combination can be very detrimental. That's something to keep in mind. The other thing is don't change the tools. Right, tools are going to come and go, and they're changing every week as we speak. By the time we finish this podcast, I'm sure there's a new tool in the market already. So don't change the tools. Really use AI to get a better understanding of the problem you're trying to solve. Always anchor yourself to the fact that as a founder, you're always bringing something unique, which is your intuition, your gut feel, your domain expertise. Although some of that could be taken over by AI, but your gut and your intuition is so very important. And trusting that is going to make a discernible difference in someone who doesn't use it is very important for founders too.
It's all about, being present, being aware, and kind of being in a situation where you're attracting the right energy to solve the problem, right? Now, what did you, as a leader, have to unlearn, unwire from to build something like that, right? So I'm sure you went through your journey where you had to do a deconditioning process.
I like that term, absolutely. And I think about it, pretty visual.
And take your time on this question.
It's a great question, and I think it's a very important question too, because what you realize when you become a founder, coming from a more of a corporate setting, is some of the things you took for granted, you suddenly realize that actually those are important, and you never realize the value of it. As an example, the structure that a corporate environment provides you, right? So when you are in some, when I was a leader, I had a structure where I had a team, and I had these interaction points, and I had these meetings. And it was pretty much rinse and repeat through many different weeks. So the structure really gave me a sense of safety net and guardrails in which I could operate in. So I knew that if I operated in those guardrails, I could ensure that I'm not hitting landmines. Right? It was that structure. So one of the important things to realize as a founder is the structure goes away. Simple things like you have the entire 24-hour at your disposal suddenly, and figuring out, okay, how do I structure my day to make it more effective?
Yeah.
So having that right. So one of the unconditioning or deconditioning process and relearning was really building my own structure and rituals that could actually replace what I had earlier. Was very, very, I think that's one of the key things for me to be able to operate. And there are certain founders who may not need that structure, but many will find that's very useful to have those boundaries and rituals to be created.
I'm hoping to share the link for all those YouTube tutorials with the team, with the audience here, along with the podcast. Thank you, Sanil, for joining us on this podcast.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me again.
Of course. And for everyone else, I'll meet you at the next podcast.